Hi and welcome to this video. I've just deployed these two virtual machines on VirtualBox. We're going to see how to install Kubernetes using Kubeadm. I'm going to do everything manually, so just follow along with me step by step. If you don't already have or you don't know how to deploy machines for your Kubernetes cluster, that's what I did in the last video. So go and watch that video. I will put the link in the description. If you want to add more, you can add more worker nodes. That's something you can do. However, in my case, I just want to have one control node and one worker node. So let's get started. The post I want to use, I've already created the post I want to use, so I can just search for it. Bizanosa install Kubernetes. So I will use this post. I'm going to follow this post to install Kubernetes. So let's get started. So everything that I said in the previous video is what we are going to do in this video. And that is, after creating the virtual machines, I'm not going to use the VirtualBox interface. So I'm just going to close that. This was the installation phase. I'm just going to close this and I'm going to log into my VirtualBox machines using Git bash. So that's something that I covered in the last video. As I said, the link is in the description. So make sure you install Git bash to follow along with me. And I'm just going to have these two Git bash windows, one to work on the control node and the other one to work on the worker node. So first, I need to log into my VirtualBox. Let's see if they're running. They're powered off. So I'm going to power them on, but I want to start them in headless mode. I want to start in headless mode. So that's not going to give me the interface, the VirtualBox interface. I don't want to use it. I'm just going to use Git bash because it's much easier to use. So let me log into my control node. I'm just going to do SSH. And the user that I created was Ubuntu. I'm going to log into this IP 192.168.4.15. I will accept this. And then I will enter my user password. I'm just going to copy the same command again. Copy. Come down here. Shift insert to paste. I will do Control A to go to the beginning of the line. I'll do Control E to go to the end of the line. And I want to change this to 16. That is the IP address for my worker node. Yes. Enter. All right, so I've successfully logged into both of my nodes. I can update the server, but I don't want to type a lot. I don't want to type the update command. So I already have various aliases that I usually use. So I'm going to add the aliases in my bash file. So you can add it to your bash profile for your user. Since I'm on Ubuntu, I think Vim is already installed. So I can use Vim, VI, and I'm going to edit my bash .bash rc. Since I'm using Vim, I can do Shift G to go to the end of the file, and I can do Shift, or I can just do I to go into insert mode. And then I want to insert various aliases here. I'm just going to copy. I'm going to paste this in the description below. So if you want to use them, you can use them. And just so that I can know where I'm at, I'm going to do alias, comment it out there. I'm going to add that comment and then I'm going to paste in. So I can just do Shift Insert to paste in Vim. And then I'm going to do Escape and Shift ZZ to save. And then I want to activate that profile. So what I can do is I'm just going to press the up arrow to get to that command. Then I'm going to do Control A to go to the beginning of the line, then Control Delete to delete that. And I want this to be my source bash file. So once I do that, I can use it and I want to update the server. So this is just a profile for apt update, apt upgrade. I'll let that update and I will do the same thing for my worker node. VI Shift G to go to the beginning, to the end of the line. And then you can do Shift A to go into insert mode. And I'm just going to paste, Escape, Shift ZZ to save. Control A, go to the beginning of the line, Control delete to delete that. And then I'm going to do source, enter, and now I can use my aliases. Okay, so I can see the update up here is asking to. I'm just going to press tab and then press OK. And I will let this one complete the update as well. Tab, enter. So I'll do Control L, clear the screen, Control L to clear the screen. So let's go ahead and start installing Kubernetes, and I'm going to use this. So I'll put the link in the description as well. We've already set up our virtual machines with 2 GB RAM and 2 virtual CPUs, so we can forget that. But something else that I need to do is I need to disable swap mode. If you're on a cloud environment, you can just copy that and paste it, and that's going to work. With VirtualBox, let me just do it manually. With VirtualBox, I'm just going to copy that. So this will turn off the swap. Shift insert, enter. Shift insert on both nodes, enter. And this is going to turn off swap, but we still need to turn it off completely. And to do that, you just edit the fstub file. So vi, and of course to do this, you're going to need sudo. So sudo vi etc fstab. This is a file that initializes all your storage devices. As usual, I'm just going to do Shift G to go to the end of the line. And then I'm going to go into insert mode by pressing I. And then I'm going to comment out the last line. And then I will escape and do Shift ZZ. I will copy that. Shift insert. Enter. Shift G to go to the end of the file. And then I to go into edit mode, and then I will edit out the line. So once I edit out this line, when the server restarts, it's not going to enable swap. Escape, Shift ZZ, and that's it. The next thing that most people forget to do is to edit the hosts file. So the host file, you edit this so that it can let Kubelet, and basically it will just let anything that interacts with your server know that your IP is the IP that you've chosen in this hosts file. So let's see how to edit this. If you want your node IP to be registered by Kubernetes, then edit your hosts file and add your IP address. If you're in a public cloud environment and you want to use your private IP, you can add your private IP in the etc hosts file, so that when it interacts with other nodes on the cluster, the nodes will know that that is the IP for that node. So that's why you edit the etc hosts file. So I'm going to do Shift insert. I don't want to type the IP address. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do IP A. I just want to copy my IP, and my IP is that 192.168.4.16. That is for the worker node, but I want to edit for the control node. So I'm just copying it from there to avoid typing. I'll scroll down a bit, and then I want to copy and paste this line. So on Vim, I can just do YY and then small p, and that's going to copy and paste the line. And then I want to go into insert mode. So I'm going to do Y, and I will delete that IP. Then I'll do Shift insert to paste. So the reason why I wanted to use Git bash for this, because you can see it's easy to copy and paste. Unlike if you're using the VirtualBox interface, it will be a nightmare. So I'm just going to add the IP address for the control node. That's pretty much it for that. I'm going to do escape and then Shift ZZ. And I will come down here. I'll just copy that and do the same for my worker node. Control L and then Shift insert, enter, and I can just copy the IP from here. I'm going to come down here. I want to copy that line, so I'm just going to do YY P to copy, and then I'm going to delete that. Shift insert, and then 16 to edit that. So make sure you add your IP address like that with your host name. So of course, if you are in a public cloud environment, you need to use a fully qualified domain name as your host name. In this case, this is VirtualBox. That's why I'm using this. But in a cloud environment, you're probably going to need something like subdomain.example.com, something like that. Escape, Shift ZZ. So even this one, I'm just going to do Shift ZQ to get out of that. Of course, if you're in a cloud environment, again, make sure you allow these ports and these ports on your firewall. This is just for the items above. You can ignore that. Now installing, the first step, we need to install a runtime. And in this example, I'm going to install containerd. I'm going to start with this. Let me just copy all of that. These are prerequisites for networking with the container, and all this you can find on the documentation. The links for things that are done here are there, and this will lead you to the documentation where you can confirm or find the latest versions of everything that you need. So I'm going to copy that, and I will do this on both nodes. Shift insert, enter. Worker node, shift insert, enter. And you can verify. I'm not going to verify. It's just to verify that everything you've done there is as it should be. And this one as well, you can verify. I'm not going to verify. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then the next step, installing containerd. So the link is here. If you want to download or find out the latest item, you can click there. You'll see the latest item. If you want to install the latest version for containerd, all the release files are here. So if you click there on releases, you can find the latest versions, and you can replace those links with what I have here. I'm just going to use this. I'm not going to edit anything, but the links are there, right? So this is the version that I went with, the version that I'm using, 1.72. You can also go with the 1.6 versions. First thing, we're going to cd into the temp directory, and this is just something I do so that I don't dirtify my home directory, because once you download items, they will be there. I don't want to clean them later. I don't want to go through the process of cleaning them later. So I just do all these things in the temp directory. So when I restart, they will all disappear. Shift insert, that will put me in the temp directory. If you're using Intel or AMD, then the versions that you download from the place I've told you, from the link I've shown you on GitHub, the links that you put here will be dependent on your system. So if you're using an ARM processor, of course, you put the link for the ARM processor. I'm using AMD, so I'm going to go with that. Once that downloads, we download it down here, and then we'll extract it, and it will be extracted into that directory. So once it is extracted there, it's like installing it there. So I can start downloading it down here as well. Let me come here, and I'm going to extract it. Now we're just extracting the item that we've downloaded. Okay, you can see that is the item that was downloaded. So we're going to extract it into the user local directory. I'm going to do Control L to clear the screen. Paste, enter. So when you update, in case you're watching this in future and I have not updated this, make sure you update everything, including that. So you can see this corresponds to that. So make sure you update all the commands that follow. Here as well, Control L to clear the screen, Shift insert. All right, it has been extracted into this directory. So let's come back and see what's next. So this is like we've installed it, but we need to let systemd know how we can start it. So if you want to do something like system starters containerd or system restart, systemctl restart containerd, you have to create a service file for systemd. So that's what these two are doing, and you can find this as well on this link. So since I'm on Ubuntu, I'm going to go with the second one. Ubuntu Debian, go with the second option, or if this doesn't work, you go with this option, and the difference is just there. User local lib systemd. This one you can see is just user lib. It is user lib local. So I'm going to go with the second one, since I know most Ubuntu and Debian usually don't use the local, don't usually use that. I'm just going to go with this. But you can, if this tells you that something doesn't exist, if you see an error, no such file or directory, that means that user local lib doesn't exist. So you come and use this one. If you use user lib and you see no such file or directory, use the first one. Shift insert, enter. Shift insert, enter. All right, so we can say containerd is installed. And if I come up here and I do Control L to clear the screen, and then I do, so you remember these things that I added here, sudo systemctl status reload. All right, so that's why I was adding this, because I don't want to type all that. So I can just do sys, that is for systemctl status, containerd. All right, you can see containerd service is not enabled and it is inactive. We can start it here. So we can reload the system daemon and then also enable containerd at the same time. So I'm going to copy that, shift insert. All right, so now if I was to do sys again, sys containerd, you'll see that now it's running. Control C to get out of that, Control L to clear the screen. Let's also enable containerd on the worker node. So I'm just going to do shift insert, enter. Containerd has been installed. There are other tutorials where you'll find you can install containerd using the Docker repository, but I prefer to do it this way because this usually gives you the latest version. I don't know whether Docker updates it as frequently as you'll get it on GitHub, but I usually go with this for that reason. Now, installing runc, you have to install runc, and so let's install runc, and this I can just do in this one command here. I'll just copy the entire thing there. And of course, if you want to get the latest, you can always click there and you'll get the latest releases for all of this, right? So if I was to click there, you can come here and get, if you click on something, you'll see the latest versions. If you come down here, there are releases down here. So AMD ARM64, you can get the links from down there. So I'm going to copy that and shift insert. So it's going to download it, and then once it downloads it, it's going to install it using this command. So this is commented out because it is for ARM64. If you're using an ARM processor, then you go with that. All right, so I'm going to paste that here. So just with that, it has installed runc. Now the next step is to install CNI. So this is for container networking. If you don't install this, you're going to have a problem with your network later on. We're going to install Calico, and if you don't install this, or this doesn't install properly, you're going to have a problem. Code DNS and all other networking items will not work. So first step, download for AMD64, and just with the above, I've added the links there. And of course, I need to do it on both nodes. So I'm going to do Control L to clear the screen there, shift insert, enter, download that here as well, Control L. All right, now I can download it down there as well on the worker node after downloading it. So if you're using an ARM processor, you can also download it, but make sure you get the right link, because you can see there is that separates ARM and AMD. AMD64, that is Intel and AMD. So extract it. We're going to create a directory. We're going to create this directory, and then inside of that directory, we're going to extract the file we've just downloaded. Copy, first of all, on the control node, Control L to clear the screen, shift insert to paste. There you go. And then Control L, shift insert, enter. Control L to clear the screen. Let's come back here, see what's next. All right, now we need to configure the C group driver for containerd. So since we've installed containerd manually, we're going to need to generate the configuration toml file, and no worry, everything is down here. So I found that this is just something, if you've installed this before and you're able to do it without switching to root, let me know how you did it, because I found that if I just did it without switching to root, there was a problem. So I had to switch to root first. And then after switching to root, we are going to create the configuration file, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Let's first of all come down here and switch to root, shift insert, switch to root, and you can see we are now the root user. Paste, enter. All right, so we are now root on both nodes. Now we need to generate the configuration file. Without this, we won't be able to edit this. It's going to make a directory. It's going to make a directory called etc containerd. This directory doesn't exist. We need to create it. And then the next step, we are going to create a file. And this is a configuration file. We're just going to create it. And then once we create it, we're going to generate default configurations for containerd in that. If you forget this step, your kubelet will never start. And then shift insert enter. Here as well, shift insert enter. Let's see the link for that. If I was to look at the content of that, just to make sure that it's been generated. So I'm just going to paste. And I can do cut, and you'll see the file has been generated successfully. So at this point, I want to make sure that everything is working well for you. So I'm going to switch out of the root user, exit. And down here as well, I'm going to switch out of the root user. If you want to continue using the root user, it's okay. But for me, I just want to make sure that the tutorial works for everybody, even if you're not using root. So that's why I'm switching out of the root user. So once I do that, I need to edit something on this file, and I need to change that from false to true. I need to edit this. Come back to the nodes, shift insert. I want to change the value of this system C group. So just copy it from there. I want to search for it and change its value to true. So I will copy and I'll come back. Here I'm going to do / and then shift insert, and you can see it has found it. So press enter, and then I want to go to the end of the line to edit it. So I'm going to do shift A, and that's going to put me in edit mode at the end of this line. Then I'm going to do true. I'm going to change it to true. And then there's something else I experienced here. Using Kubeadm init, there was something it was telling me that I need to change the version. So let me find that as well. So I'm going to search for that. So press escape to get out of edit mode, and then / again. And I want to search for sandbox. So that's not the one I want. So I'm just going to press enter, and then I'm going to press N to take me to the next result. And you can see sandbox image right there. That's the one that I need to edit. So I'm going to do shift. I'm going to do shift A to go to the end of the line. And it was recommending that I use version 3.9. So I'm going to follow that advice and just change this version to 3.9. And then I'm going to escape, and I'll do shift ZZ. Shift ZZ will save it. So I'm going to copy that again, and then I will come down here and I'll do shift insert to paste, and I need to search for this, and I will search for shift insert, enter, shift A, go into insert mode, true, and here as well I can change the other one. So I'm going to do escape and then / to search for sandbox, then enter, and I'm going to press N to find the next search result, and I'm going to do shift A to go to the end, and I want to edit this as well to 3.9, and then I'm going to escape, and I'm going to do shift ZZ to save. So that should be done with containerd. So let's go back and see what else. So we can apply the changes by restarting containerd. Copy. So even if you don't want to do this, you can just do sit SYT as I put it in my alias file. Shift insert, restart containerd, shift restart containerd, and just to make sure that it is running, you can do sys, that is system sudo systemctl status containerd. There we go, it's running. So Control C, Control L, clear the screen, Control L, clear the screen. I think we are done with installing containerd, which is the container runtime. So the next thing is to install Kubeadm, Kubelet, and Kubectl. I'm just going to install kubectl on both of them, even though I will not use kubectl on the worker node, but you can just install it there. So this is another important part that I want to address. You can see I will be installing version 1.29, and currently the stable version is 1.30. If you're following along, you can install that, and then of course you're going to use this as a practicing example for updating your cluster. You can use 1.29 or you can update. And to update, it's all here. Just come in here, and this installing Kubeadm, if you come down here, you'll find this. You'll find that, and under that, you'll add the repository for version 1.30. So of course, if you're watching this maybe years later, it's 1.4 or 1.39, whenever you're watching, it doesn't matter. You can always come to that link and see the latest version. And if you want the latest, you can get the latest from there. And you can see this is going to install all the latest versions. So I'm going to install version 1.29. I don't really need to do sudo update. I can just do that to install this, but on Ubuntu, probably this already installed. Shift insert, tab, press OK. Then shift insert on the worker node to paste and install this. Enter this one as well, press tab, and then enter. Control L to clear the screen. Control L to clear the screen. Let's come down here again. I will copy that. Shift insert, enter. Shift insert, enter. Copy. So this is going to add the repository and install this, and then it's going to hold them. So to hold them simply means that they should not be updated. Shift insert, enter. Down here as well, shift insert, enter. So let kubelet kubeadm install. We are going to initiate our cluster. So as they're installing, I can just talk about this. So I'm going to copy that command, Control V. So Kubeadm init. You can configure it however you need. If you search for Kubeadm init, it's going to take you to a Kubernetes documentation that's going to show you the possible configurations that you can have for your cluster initially. The API server to advertise this is important because it's going to let your cluster know, all the other nodes will know the IP address for your cluster control, for your control plane. So API advertise address. So this is going to be the IP for your control plane. So I'm going to use my control plane here, 16, and then pod network. You can change it. You can use whichever network you want. I'm just going to leave it at that point. So I'm just going to do tab to finish this one as well. Click tab to go to OK, and then enter. All right. So you can see Kubelet has been held back. Kubeadm and kubectl as well have been held back. So they will not update with the system. If you update your system, they will not be updated. So Control L, you have to update them manually when updating Kubernetes. So now that our cluster, basically everything is ready for us to initialize our cluster. One thing I'd recommend that you do is just reboot your system, because you never know, maybe some things will require a reboot. So just reboot your system, and I'm going to reboot control node, sudo reboot. I can look at the status, how it is going. Even though I'm not using the VirtualBox interface, there I can still see something about what's going on in my server. So there I can see it's starting up. The moment I see an option to enter my username, then I can come in here and try to log in via SSH. And I can see now it's ready. I can try to log in via SSH, and I will enter my password. Copy. So make sure you change this IP to match your control node IP. My control node IP is not 16. It is 15, right? I can do IP A. Yeah, there. The inet, or not that one, but this one, 15, yes. So you can see I almost made a mistake there, but It's a good thing I saw it. So make sure you change your IP to match your control node's IP. Control L, and then I'm going to shift insert to paste. Shift insert to paste, and this is going to take some time. I can actually control C. I can actually pull in the items, the images that are needed with Kubeadm. I have not run Kubeadm init here before, so this is going to take me a lot of time. So I can just do kube sudo kubeadm config, and I can't remember where to go next. So this is where Linux is very helpful. You can always do -h to find out what you need. So even though I don't need sudo, let me just continue with this. So kubeadm-h, so images. So of course it's something to do with images. So I know I can just do kubeadm images. All right. And after finding images, d-h, I can see that I can pull images. So let me pull the images. And this is going to take some time. And then after I do this, I can just do kubeadm init, and that's going to initialize my cluster much faster. So let's pull these images. All right, so you can see here, version is being taken. So it's going to pull the images for version 1.29 because that is a repository that I added, and that is a Kubeadm version that I installed. So if you want to use version 1.3, the latest versions, always just go to the documentation and change it there. So this is going to take some time. It's going to pull all the items that I needed to make Kubernetes work. And once this is done, I can just run my command to initialize my cluster. The reason I'm doing this is because I want that to go much faster. After I pull the images, everything is going to be much faster. So I'm going to pause for a while, and I'll come back once all the images have been pulled. Okay, so you can see these are the items that were pulled. So this means that if I want to run kube init, it's going to go much faster because all these images are now available on the system. So I'm just going to do Control L to clear the screen, and then I can run my kube init command. Copy, shift, insert, enter. And just like that, you can see the process was much faster because it didn't have to pull anything from the internet. Right, so let's set up kubectl, and you can just copy this. Wherever you want to run your kubectl, copy and paste that, shift insert. I'm going to paste that there. So now if I was to do kubectl get nodes, and you're going to see that we have our one control node there. Once we install the CNI, you're going to see that it will become ready. Right now, it's not ready, but as soon as we install that, it's going to be ready. So something else, let's do kubectl get nodes -o wide. And now you'll see that your internal IP has been recognized as the IP you added on your host name. If you don't add your IP on your host name, you're probably going to see the DHCP IP right there, the 10.10 IP. That's the one you're going to see there. So make sure you add your IP to the etc hosts file. If you don't do that, you won't have this. And this is going to affect various things in Kubernetes. So Control L, clear the screen. You can take note of Kubeadm join. You can copy this and save it somewhere, or you can print it later. Before we join the worker node to our cluster, let's go ahead and install Calico. Of course, as usual, I've added the documentation link there. You can install the latest version. So just go with the latest version. If you have installed the latest Kubernetes, install the latest version from here, and you'll just use the operator. The operator automatically installs and manages Calico on its own. If you go with manifest, everything will have to be done manually in future. So go with the operator. The operator is going to install Calico and manage it for you. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going to go with this version. You can see this is 3.28, and here the version is 3.28, and here the version is 3.27, I mean. So I'm going to copy that. I will run this on my control node. Control L to clear the screen, Shift Insert, Enter. Right, so that has set that up. And then let's get the configuration, the YAML file here, and I'm going to use the default one. If you want to customize it, you can open this file and edit it. But in my case, I'm just going to use the default there, copy, and then Control L, Shift Insert, Enter. We can apply the file that we've downloaded right there. Right? So if you want to look at what's in the file, you can open Vim and look at it and even edit it. But in this case, I'm just going to apply it using the file we've downloaded right there. And then after that, you're going to do that. And this is just going to show us the pods that are currently being created as a result of this resource. So come there and I'm going to do Shift Insert. All right, so that has been created. Let us just confirm if everything is all right. If everything is all right, you're going to see that pods are getting created. Shift Insert, and you can see these pods are now being created, and this is going to get created. It's going to take some time, maybe 2-3 minutes. And once everything becomes running, you can see that one is already running. Once all of them become running, we can join the worker node to the cluster. So just give it time to create this. Once everything is in a running state, we'll be ready to go and we can join the cluster. So you can list your current tokens, but forget about that. That's not very helpful. The one that's helpful is this one. So in case your token is expired, and usually it expires after 24 hours unless you manually create it and change this version and change this option. You can change that as well, the expiry date. So once it has expired, you can create it. And if one exists, like right now we have one that exists, it's just going to print that. The print join command is going to print the entire line that you need to join the cluster. So I'm going to copy this so that you can see an example. There we go. Everything is now running. So we can go to, I can just do Control-C to get out of that. And now we can go to our worker node to join the cluster. So as I've said, you can print the join command using that. So let's come back here into the control node, and let's also open the worker node down there. And of course, I restarted the server. Control L, that's our worker node. Let's come back to the control node and we want to print the join command. If you do that, it's going to print for you the join command, and you can just copy. You can just copy it. So remember here, it's not using sudo, but of course we need sudo. So I'm going to have to add sudo shift insert. If you're the root user, of course you don't need sudo. I'm going to need sudo. So I'm going to copy and then shift insert, enter. Enter your user password, enter. And there you go. This node has joined the cluster. So we cannot run kubectl here, and that's because I've not added the initial configurations that I was given up there, and I don't want to add them here. I'll just use the control node for this. I'll do Control L on the control node to check all my nodes. So I'll do kubectl get nodes. And there you go. Our nodes are there. So it's not ready. Just give it time and it's going to be ready in a moment. Just give it a little bit of time. And then we want to confirm the IP addresses. So let's just do -o wide. And if you do that, you can see your IP addresses have been matched correctly to your control node. So you won't have any networking problems as a result of the internal IP using your DHCP server. That's pretty much it. Let's just see. I'm going to wait for a moment and then I'll come back and see if the node is ready. Once it is ready, we are going to once it is ready, we're going to deploy this. I'm going to deploy this on the worker node, and then we can verify that everything is working well. So let's check if it is ready. Okay, just give it time. All right, so the node is ready. So let me make a directory here, make dir tests, enter. I will go into that directory. And in here, I want to create a file. I'm just going to call it vi tests test.yaml, enter, and then I'm going to paste everything I've just copied from there. Shift, insert. So this is going to create a service and a deployment. Escape, and I'm just going to do Shift ZZ to save, and then I can do Kubectl apply -f, apply that file, test T, just press on tab to autocomplete it, and then I'm going to press enter. So the service is created and the deployment is created. You can also see how the pods, if the pods are getting created, and you can see the deployment are creating, probably still pulling. Once they've pulled, we are going to test it. So we can test it by going to the IP. Just give it time. Okay, now they're running. You can test it by going to the IP. Since your containers will run on your worker node, of course, you need to test it with the IP of your worker node. That is where your containers, your pods are running. So I'm going to copy, paste. So this is just to test that the cluster is working. The IP for my worker node is .16, and the node port was 30,000. I'm just going to copy it from there. Copy, Control V, enter, and you can see Nginx is running. If we delete it, if we delete the deployment, we can come back here and just do. So I'll do Control C to get out of that, and then instead of doing kubectl apply, I'm going to do kubectl Control delete to delete, and I'm going to do delete. Kubectl delete that deployment and the service. And now if we come back to that and test it, you'll see that it's now not available. It is not accessible because the container has been destroyed. So that's pretty much it, how to install Kubernetes using Kubeadm. So now if you want to practice, it's much easier to practice because you have the real thing, okay? Kubernetes using Kubeadm. If you want to add more clusters, just follow the steps, and then you'll print the join command and add the node. Add the new node that you've created here. So you can use as many clusters, you can use as many nodes as you want to. This is your local machine. As long as you have enough RAM, you have enough CPU, you have enough storage, you can use as many nodes as you want to. That pretty much covers this tutorial. If there's any link you want me to add in the description and I forgot to add it, let me know. All right, that's it. Until next time.